So, who is Brigid Coleain, who is associated with Midwestern Marx? And I'm going to show you who Brigid Coleain is. So, her bio says that she is a New York City-based communist organizer, educator, and sex trade abolitionist. She is founder and host of the Probably Canceled podcast, a project that challenges mainstream liberal ideology and analyzes feminism from a revolutionary Marxist perspective. And following the lineage of Alexandra Kollontai, Thomas Sankara, and Anuradha Gandhi, her work aims to unite the struggles of class and sex and gender-based oppression. So, and if you look at her Medium, you can see she's an occultist, right? Literally all her Medium articles are about occultism. And check this out. She's a grade school teacher. So Brigid is an early childhood educator living in the United States. She's interested in the unification of psychology, history, and mysticism. Again, she's got this weird occultist kind of grift going on. And we see that with her podcast that she does, the Probably Canceled podcast. And she has this weird fascination with occultism, which is actually pretty common for Nazis and right-wingers in general. So she has Matthew Ehret on. And who is this Matthew Ehret guy? She has Matthew Ehret on to talk about occultism. Now, this Matthew Ehret guy this guy, journalist, artist, senior fellow at American University in Moscow. And he's a journalist and founder of the Canadian Patriot Review. And he's the director of the Rising Tide Foundation and senior fellow at the American University in Moscow. So look at what he's posting on his LinkedIn. Khazaria and the Forgotten Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Confucian Alliance. Astaghfirullah. And look at this. He's got a Rumble, and you know who has Rumbles? Right-wingers. And he's talking with Courtney Turner. Now, I don't know who that is. Maybe I'll do some research on that later. And look at this here. Shilling for Zionist China. Again, you're going to see a pattern of this. So, since 2019, he's the co-founder and vice president of the Rising Tide Foundation, which is a Zionist think tank. He's been a freelance writer since 2018, and his works have appeared for the Strategic Culture Foundation, that sounds Zionist, the Duran, the Washington Times, which is right-wing, Zero Hedge, another right-wing grift by Chris Hedges, Global Research, Dissident Voice, Oriental Review, sounds like Chinese propaganda, Global Times, Zionist propaganda, SOTT, Lou Rockwell, and the Off Guardian, Principia Científica, and more. So, 2012 to present, 13 years. He's been self-employed at the Canadian Patriot Review, which is a right-wing, Chinese, probably Chinese-funded, pro-China at the very minimum, China grift, liberal Zionist publication. Here's what it says. The Canadian Patriot is both a geopolitical journal and a platform for a broader discussion about Canada's role as a sovereign participant in this harmony of nations, which is now emerging. This platform's content is generally pro-Eurasian and pro-Belt and Road Initiative and pro-financial reform. So in other words, the Canadian Patriot Review is a bunch of Zionist Nazbol trash. Dangus trash. Now so get this. What companies does he like? The Canada-Eurasia Chamber of Commerce, CGTN, Intellectual Takeout, LinkedIn News, the Duran, the Post-Millennial, the Geopolitics and Empire, the Charlemagne Institute, Freedom Broadcasters, the Duke Report, and LinkedIn Writing. So this man, in other words, likes a lot of Zionist propaganda. We'll get to Don Corder in a second. So this is who Matthew Ehret is. And look at this. Shilling for Zionist Paul Robeson, who was friends with Zionist Albert Einstein. He panders to all these like LaRouchite tropes, such as eco-terrorism, green fascism, multipolarity, things of that nature, right? So he's a liberal Zionist. He talks about the Great Reset agenda, multipolar alliance. That sounds pretty Zionist to me. And he calls himself a journalist, lecturer, and founder of the Canadian Patriot Review, BRI expert, tactical talk, and senior fellow at the American University in Moscow. And notice that he's been on the Duran, RT, Strategic Culture Foundation, which sounds like a think tank, Asian Times, 21st Century Science and Technology, Los Angeles Review of Books, the Duran, the Zero Hedge, which is Chris Hedges' grift. That's crazy. This man is a grifter. Now, who's the next person they have? Catherine Liu. Catherine Liu, you know, the Chinese Zionist. And this is who Catherine Liu is. She is a BA from Yale and a PhD from CUNY. And you want to know what? Do you want to know who she writes for? She writes for Jacobin. We went over this in the previous video. You want to know who funds Jacobin? The New York Jewish Communal Fund. I'm not kidding. The New York Jewish Communal Fund. Guess who else they have on their show? They had on their show. Shiva Ayudarai, who's kind of weird and kooky. And he's also from India. You do the math. And then they have Alex McKay of the Marx Engels Lenin Institute, which sounds like a think tank. And look at this. She had her boomer mom on to try to promote the Red-Brown Alliance. So she talks about the Golden Center. Can communists and MAGA find an anti-imperialist common ground? Why is she platforming literal MAGA people? Why is she platforming? Why is she trying to find ground with settler colonialist people and, Nazis and Zionists? That is weird. Why is she trying to find ground with Zionists and Nazis? Again, that sounds like Red-Brown Alliance, which is basically what it is. And then here we go. Matthew Ehret, that Zionist China bender. And if this wasn't relevatory or didn't reveal enough, I don't know, English is a hard language to speak. You got Don Corder, the associate of Caleb Mopstein. Don Corder. English, Russian, and Spanish. Russian. Worked at RT of all places. This man is an associate of Caleb Mopstein. Don Corder is the editor-in-chief of the Revolution Report. He is a pro-Russia propagandist that lives in Moscow, Russia. And the Revolution Report states that Donald is a longtime Marxist and highly experienced journalist from the USA. His mastery of the Russian language has allowed him to travel across the entire former Soviet sphere and beyond, collecting interviews with people from once Soviet nations and creating English language content that provides a different perspective on the great ideological struggle between capitalism and socialism. The World Youth Festival? The World Youth Festival. You want to know who went to the World Youth Festival? Caleb Mopstein, the wannabe cult leader. That guy. The guy whose Korean name is Borger Kang. Mopstein. Corder attended Putin's World Youth Festival in 2024. Again, this man has ties to LaRouchite, Mopstein, and everybody of that nature. So in 13 August 2022, Ryan Cotton of the Center for Political Innovation was featured in an episode of Revolution Report titled Soviet Political Economy, Monopoly Capitalism, and Imperialism. Okay? So there are clear and direct ties to Caleb Mopstein. This man is an Ozbol. And then there's ties with this man and Caleb Mopstein. Corder is currently the organizational secretary of Caleb Mopstein's Students and Youth for a New America and a specialist in Russian history. He lives in Moscow, Russia, and he's from East Brunswick, New Jersey, and he manages the Molotov Club. Again, his ties to Mopstein are a huge problem. So look at this. Here he is at Students Youth for New America. Here he is at No Genocide. He went to Lugansk. He's with Stalin and Assad supporters in Lugansk. He's in Moscow. He claims to support Palestine, but we actually know because he's an associate of Mopstein, he's a liberal Zionist. So he's with Rutgers, New Brunswick Students for Justice in Palestine. And that was all the way back in 2014. So from being a pro-Palestine activist to actually shilling for Vladimir Putin and being an associate of Caleb Mopstein, boy, has Don Corder changed. And that's actually who runs the Revolution Report. Which makes sense because there has been some suspiciously Nazgul videos on the Revolution Report. For example, the promotion of George Galloway, the promotion of Jeff Monson, the promotion of Eddie Smith. Who else have they promoted? Again, Galloway, FBI's Most Wanted, Chris Ems, And then there's that Lady Izdihar, who I think might be some sort of Nazbol. And there he goes with platforming the Pajeets. Ties to Chris Halali. Collaboration.
When Marxism marched across the planet.
Reading a book written by Caleb Mopstein. Platforming Iran, which is Zionist, by the way. The anti-woke crap that he's been saying also. So that's from July 9, 2024. So Don Quarter, then Matthew Ere, two degenerates in a row. And then you have Yakov Shapiro. Now this is... Where the fudge is this? Yakov Shapiro was born in 1950. This man is a literal Zionist settler, right? This man is a literal Zionist settler. So why, and he's also involved in some think tanks, the International Council for Middle East Studies. It says Yakov Shapiro is an international speaker and author and pulpit rabbi for over 30 years, now emeritus. He has attained an enviable place in the arena of anti-Zionist public intellectuals, having constructed a unique oeuvre on the ideology of Zionism and its relationship to Judaism. After graduating high school at age 16, Yakov Shapiro dedicated himself to full-time study of religion, becoming the protege of some of the most well-regarded rabbinic scholars in Orthodoxy. Among his areas of research are religious philosophy, analytic theology, Talmud, Halakha, and biblical exegesis. And I'm pretty sure to be a rabbi, you have to be a Zionist normalizer. So this man is a Zionist normalizer, and he is a grifter. Okay, Yakov Shapiro. So get this. Shapiro is a recipient of the Community Leadership Award from Agudath Zionist of America and Keser Torah Award from Yeshiva Torah Vodath, Harbotzas Torah Award from Yeshiva Bais, Parent of the Year Award from Benos Yisroel, and Post-Rabbinical Scholarship Award from the Memorial Foundation for Jewish Culture. This man he's a liberal Zionist. When you accept awards from Zionist institutions, you're a Zionist. So this man is a liberal Zionist. Now, why is Brigid platforming a literal Zionist? And it's funny because right after that, she platformed some Palestinians because people might have gotten on her case about it. So yeah. She platformed liberal Zionist Yakov Shapiro. Oh, look, and there you go. Zionist China bender Matthew Ere, March 30, 2023. And when she platformed this old boy Yakov? October 25, 2023. So right after Tufan al-Aqsa happened, she chose to platform a Zionist because she's a Philo-Semite. And then November 28, 2022, this Brigid chick, and November 21, 2022, this Brigid chick platformed liberal Zionist liberal Zionist Daniel Mate. This is who Daniel Mate is. The DEI so this is from Decolonize the Classroom. The DEI tactics and tokenization of identity are as perpetuated by neoliberalism in the U.S. are often used by post-Zionists. In fact, post-Zionists are heavily anchored in U.S. imperialism and also perpetuate reformist ideas both in the U.S. and occupied 1948 Palestine because they need both to exist. This also means post-Zionists often perpetuate agendas against other nations that openly denounce U.S. agendas. And it's because they're invested in the Palestinian Authority, NGOization, and academic propaganda that furthers normalization. So this is a tweet. It's from Daniel Mate, and it says, "Not my point. In that conversation, I explicitly state how I feel about Zionist settlers and my hopes for your future. I want to save you from yourselves. Post-Zionists accept the existence of the Zionist entity as permanent and focus on reformation." Again, they are Zionists. They want to reform the Zionist entity. So why is this Brigid chick platforming Daniel Mate? Now, she also talks trash about Portland, and I'm not the biggest fan of Portland. I do think it's better than many cities in the U.S. Like, I think it's better than Anchorage and Fairbanks. But it's not the best city. So it's kind of weird that she's platforming Portland. Who else? And then she talks about the radical liberals in Portland. Again, I might not be a fan of, definitely not a fan of the radical liberals, but I think Portland's definitely a better place to live than, say, Omaha, Nebraska, or New Orleans, right? And then also, she has Nazbol Shang Yu on her show, right, to talk about men and explicit content and things of that nature. Why are you platforming a Chinaman? And why are you platforming a Nazbol? It's kind of weird. And then you have Abby Epstein. Why are you having someone with the last name Epstein on your show? That's just kind of weird. And then this one takes the cake. Literally Daniel Burke of the Schiller Institute, an associate of Caleb Mopstein, and a student of Lyndon LaRouche. So this is from the horse's mouth. This is the Schiller Institute's conference, Build a New Paradigm, Defeat Green Fascism. And look who their moderator is. None other than Daniel Burke. They have Helga Zepp LaRouche as their first speaker. Second speaker, Jackson Hinkle. Look at their fifth speaker. Actually, their fourth speaker, Princey Mtobeni, South Africa. Africa for nuclear, as in Fusion City Now, which is the whole nuclear power project for the U.S. that Caleb Mopstein wanted. They have Sheju Huang, postgraduate, Guangdong Institute for International Strategies, Guangdong University of Foreign Studies. So they have a literal Chinaman, Sébastien Letron and Chérine Sultan from France, Solidarité et Progrès, which is kind of weird. Why are you having them at a LaRouche if they're for Solidarity and Progress? Parce que je parle pas de français. Why are you having them at a LaRouche conference? Dana Annex, U.S., classical music educator. Again, the LaRouchites love their classical music. You have Nicholas Holman and Ashley Tran from the LaRouche movement from the United States. And here you go. Round 2 of the panel. Moderator Daniel Burke, the Schiller Institute. First speaker, Diane Sayre, LaRouchite independent candidate for U.S. Senate, New York State. 2, Hazeladin, a.k.a. Ali Hamoud, infrared. That's a big red flag. Megan Dobrot, President, Schiller Institute USA. Then you got Dr. Will Harper, Space Commune. Samira Khan, U.S. journalist. Another red flag. Fuad Al-Qafari, Yemen, advisor of the Prime Minister's cabinets for BRICS countries, affairs president of the AL BRICS Youth Parliament. Another China bender and liberal Zionist. You have Jose Vega of the U.S. LaRouche movement. Leah Murphy, U.S. LaRouche movement. So, and they're doing this in response to Zionist China's Belt and Road Initiative. That's crazy. So now you want to know where the LaRouche connection to Midwest Marx is? It's through Brigid. This is from June 12, 2022. And Daniel Burke ran for Senate. This is crazy. Oh, and then you have the fat ass named Christopher Mott. This is who Christopher Mott is. I don't know why. Oh, they're showing me that book by the China woman, Catherine Liu. Christopher Mott. He's a think tanker. Why are you platforming think tankers? So Christopher Mott is a DC fellow. And Christopher Mott is an international relations scholar focused on historical geopolitics, grand strategy, and the intersection of defensive realism, of conceptions of sovereignty in an era of increasing multipolarity. In other words, this man is a Zionist. This man is a LaRouchite. This man is a grifter, a BRICS grifter, a China man, China bender. So Dr. Mott is currently fellow at Defense Priorities in DC and a former researcher and desk officer at the U.S. Department of State. This man's a deep stater from the State Department. He's a deep stater, a think tanker, and a Zionist and a LaRouchite. And he has published a book, The Formless Empire, A Short History of Diplomacy and Warfare in Central Asia. Again, this man is a Zionist and a think tanker and a grifter. And with the last name Mott, you kind of have to wonder if he's a subversive, if you know what I mean. Oh, and then you have Jay Tarapel, whatever the fuck his name is. Tarapel, Baboti Tarapel. Who's this Therapel guy? Jay Therapel, University of Sydney, political economy alum. And this man is a liberal Zionist China bender. He shills for China nonstop. So yet another China bender. This is crazy. Oh, ties to Falun Gong? Jimmy Falun Gong. Isn't he a Chinaman? And a Falun Gongist? And then you got Zionist grifter and washed up academic Gabriel Rockhill, April 4, 2022. And Gabriel Rockhill works for Villanova University. And this man is a grifter, and he's been platformed by Midwestern Mussolini. And then Lady Izdihar, she collaborated with Don Corder, right? So And you got the Chinaman Zhang Yu on there, who's an Asbol. So, again, this is who Brigid O'Coleain, or whatever the fuck her name is. Coleain. I don't know, I'm not Irish, I'm Iraqi. And Palestinian, and French. And Lebanese. But this is who Brigid O'Coleain is. She's a weirdo, an occultist, a LaRouchite, and a Zionist grifter. So, there you go.